Imagine More Success radio show is the all about you show with successful entrepreneurs and business experts sharing their stories and powerful takeaways while providing you with the tips, tools, tactics, and a free weekly gift to help you thrive. Your hosts for the Imagine More Success radio show are the best-selling authors Cindy Hendricks, who's a certified business consultant, and Thomas Hydes, a certified world-class public speaking coach. Check out the Imagine More Success radio show at imaginemoresuccess.net because now is the time to realize your dreams and to imagine more success. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We are welcoming in not just a guest today, we're welcoming in probably the best concept that we welcome in, which is love. The show today is called How to Create a Love That Lasts. And I don't know about you, but I think for a lot of people that I know, including myself, that's a really important topic. So you're going to want to stick around today because we're going to hear from an expert in the love and relationship circle who is going to be explaining to us how to create a love that lasts, as well as how to get through the holidays, which every single year, that seems like it gets a little trickier. At least that's what it seems like. Cindy, what do you think?
Hey, I have the answer. Just don't invite those people.
So you'll be home for the holidays by yourself. That's a good concept.
No, invite people, invite friends that don't get testy.
Definitely a time for great patience. And you know what? I think if anyone is feeling a little low on patience these days, it's probably understandable. There's lots of reasons to have your patience tested within the last several months. But we don't want to talk about that today. We want to talk about what's highest and best. We want to talk about love. And we want to go ahead and welcome our guest today. His name is Gary Salyer. I want to tell you a little bit about him. He's actually a master transformational relationship mentor. Now, that sounds like a lot, but it encompasses a lot, but it always comes out with the best result. He helps people rewrite the rules for love in their brains, and he speaks to a national audience as a featured expert and on various celebrity TV and radio shows such as Hay House Radio, which is something that I love to enjoy. His life purpose is really to change a generation's fate with love. If you want to be a part of a generational shift today, where you can learn how to love differently, how to experience love in a totally different way, and how to create a love that lasts, you're going to want to stick around. We want to go ahead and welcome Dr. Gary Salyer to the show. Dr. Gary, welcome.
Well, thank you, Thomas and Cindy, for having me. It's great being back again. You guys are my faves.
You too. It's great to have you back. We love hearing your voice and love having you here.
Yes, and there's no time like the present that we need a love doctor for this country and planet, right?
Yeah, well, there's quite a bit of challenges going around these days at multiple levels. I'll grant you that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Dr. Gary, tell us a little bit about how you got started in this amazing career of yours.
Well, for me, it really did start when I was 7 years old, going to, I was a party and I had a family that had a lot of alcoholism. And I just noticed that there were a lot of mean comments made when people got under the influence. And I remember thinking, why can't adults love each other? I really thought that at 7. And so when I get into college, I'm thinking I don't want to be divorced like everybody else. So I go there and I have 2 degrees. I've got 2 majors. And my senior year, my psychology professor pulls me in because I had a psych degree and a religion degree. Mm-hmm. And he gives me a personality test that was experimental. And he calls me in a couple days later and says, these are the results. And as I'm walking out, Cindy and Thomas, he says, oh, by the way, you have a 90% chance of having a divorce. And, by the way,
by the way.
Oh, by the way, give me a ham sandwich on the way out. Right?
You didn't need any help with bedside manner or anything like that, that's...
No. I just talked to him this summer, 40-some years later. He remembered that conversation. Well, I stayed a 5th year to get another degree in marriage and family. I was like petrified of the idea of divorce. And 12 years later, my first wife says she wants a divorce, and I'm floored. I thought I'd done everything. So this time I buckle up and I do 7.5 years of therapy. right? I
Mm.
mean, one for every chakra and a little bit more.
Plus a little extra. I love it.
You know, and the next thing I know, I get married, I pronounce myself good to go, and within 4 years, that thing is dead. It's
Mm.
divorced, and it started falling apart within 3, 4 months, and I was like, I don't get this, you know. So then I start dating. I did more therapy, and I did more workshops, and then when I began to realize after one painful breakup, there were like two things I realized that there's all these different people I'm choosing, the same patterns are happening over and over again. That all that therapy, all those degrees did not change my core way of relating and picking and creating love. And I thought, well, there's two lessons here. One is I can no longer blame women because I'm the only constant. And that was come to Jesus moment, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one was, it shouldn't be this hard when you've worked this hard to have this poor results. And it wasn't like therapy didn't do me some good, but it didn't change the core style. And so I said, if they can't crack the code, I will. And
Do you
the
think that
book was
a
that
lot of
culmination. Yes.
do you think that a lot of the things that you learned in your degree program or your degree path were basically, they were great information, but maybe they didn't have complete real world application?
It didn't get down to the core things I was setting up, you know.
Mm.
Uh, like for instance, like I did a lot of things through my mind because it was way easier. I didn't get much of a right to exist in my family, so I just floated above all that painful reality by being in my head. You could have predicted a PhD. So this is one, with that. So I mean, think about like this. In the middle of my first marriage, she cons me. She goes, I don't feel like you get me. I feel like I'm talking to a wall that even though I explain things, you don't get it. So what does the intellectual me do? This is way long time before I did. I'm in my 20s, right? I go, well, I better go. I'm in a PhD program. And I go read like 4 or 5 books on what women want, right? And, and
Okay.
But
then,
did you watch the movie though?
no, this was before the movie.
Before the movie.
Ah.
And then, and every time I get it wrong, I go, that's interesting because the book said, and then I get it wrong again. I go, it's really interesting. This other book said that women like this. And then after about the sixth time I said this, she turned, glared at me and said, read me, not the darn book.
Seems obvious now, but at the time,
Now, nobody ever told me that one of my key things was it felt a lot better floating above reality than being actually connected. Because at one point in time, being connected to reality with a borderline mother that didn't like you, right? That was very painful. And
It
so
was
that
safer.
pattern, it
Your
was safer to be
your
disconnected.
path was safer. Yes.
So I was running old safety patterns. And while I got a lot of stuff on communication and this, that, and the other in my degrees, there was nothing about what was really driving the system to always seek distance. Because if you've got a borderline mother that at 3 or 4, if you join her down there in the kitchen, you could get hit against a wall. Some part of me needed distance to survive. And that was great for a 4-year-old, but not so much for the 24-year-old, new husband. And within 10 years, that whole thing blew up. And what the problem was is I was doing everything that I thought she wanted, except everything that she needed was going by me.
Sounds like
Now,
she needed some more intimacy, some more
she did.
closeness.
Oh, she would say, I feel lonely. I don't get it. I'm still in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a child, hanging up in my room was the safest deal. And I didn't realize, and this is what was underneath it. Nobody ever caught that, because I didn't have a right to exist and it felt way better to be separate than to belong in a family, that some part of me was always seeking distance. And nobody ever explained it. That's part of what I talk about in the book and many other things. But it's what equals safety is driving the ship. And we get these old safety patterns that at one time were the best deal available. Your brain never gets up in the morning and says, how can I screw with my master? But then 20, 30 years later, when that situation's over, not so good. Not so good.
Let me ask you this. What percentage of the population do you think has that very same issue where they're
Okay.
constantly seeking some sort of safety by separation from their mate?
Okay. So uh, there's a lot of people. Safety is underlying everything. That's why the book was called Safe to Love Again, not inspired, not guilt tripped. you know, uh, but we know that there's these things called love styles. They're called attachment styles. I call them love styles. And that 50% of the population are called secure. That means they feel really safe being in a relationship, depending on somebody, and being dependent on. All that feels very safe. They tend to pick really good partners. They tend to show up as good partners, and they create lasting relationships for the most part, almost entirely, about 85%, 90% of the time. Now, the other 50% got messages early in childhood that it wasn't so safe to be in a relationship. And for 25% of them, they got love and didn't get it. Got it, didn't get it. Got attention, didn't get it. And some part says, I'm going to lock this thing down. And they become anxious. Like, why didn't you text me? Where were you last night? Do you still love me? So they're afraid love's going to go away. They don't feel safe. Now, on the other hand, 20% of the population, they feel they're called avoidance. They're the ones that said, love, they didn't get a lot of attention. They didn't get a lot of timely support. So they learned they had to do it on their own. And so their worst fear is to be in a relationship. Their worst fear is to be depended on or to depend on somebody else. And so that's another 20%. And then there's a 5% that, for various reasons, they got either really super abused or they just kind of split the difference between the two of them. But they get into a whole other patterning. But for most people, they're either afraid that love won't stay around or love will stay around. And it's not going to.
Yeah, and the terrible part, I think that if you're listening today, you're probably sitting there identifying with at least one of those people and one of those sets of patterns, and that's been a part of your life. And it's something that's actually frightening. And when you hear it, because I know the first time that I heard you talk as well, I could hear myself in some of your descriptions, and it's very enlightening, life-changing, just to even know that I'm fitting into a specific camp.
Well,
Yes.
what I've heard a lot of, Gary, and maybe you can put some spin on it. A lot of people think their pickers are broken.
Yes, they do. There are people I've actually had. I remember I talked about it in the book. Her name was Gwen. She walked in the first session. She goes, I think my picker has it in for me.
Exactly.
Because she was always picking married men. And she goes, I don't get it. Even when I'm trying not to, they wind up, being married. I keep thinking, oh, they're really cool. And then I get the suspicious behavior. And the next thing I know is I check it out. And, oh, there they are again, Mr. Married.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if you think about it, but when you do the deep work, and I talk about this in the book, she didn't have what I call a right to have her needs met. Her mother was kind of narcissistic and was always saying, oh, it's not about you. Everything was about her needs. So she never got her needs met. And then another part, when she was 7 and her mom and dad had divorced, she asked, she was about 9, and she asked her father, if she could have an ice cream cone. Kind of that unheard of thing. 9-year-old asked for for an ice cream cone. It's going to be in the day's newspaper, I'm sure, right? But he pulls out a wad of $100 bills and says, "This is what you cost me every month."
Oh, wow. With that story, we're going to take a short break.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to continue focusing on how to create a love that lasts. We're going to help you figure out exactly where you are in the groundwork of creating that love in your life, and also how to get through the holidays. So do stay tuned to the Imagine More Success radio show. We're so happy you could join us today on the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We are continuing our conversation today with Dr. Gary Salyer, who is the author of Safe to Love Again, How to Release the Pain of Past Relationships and Create the Love You Deserve. Today, we're talking about how to create a love that lasts. And when we left in the previous segment, Dr. Gary was telling us a story about how a young girl, when she was 7 years old, actually had the experience of basically being shamed by her father for asking for an ice cream cone. And Dr. Gary, that appears to be an incident, while maybe not replicated exactly. There's instances like that for so many people, and it ends up affecting their love lives way down the road, and in ways they can't even imagine.
Oh, it does. Now, I called what she got was, I can't reach out for my needs. She got it early, from very early on, because mom always said, oh, it's not about you. And then later at 7. So she had the idea. The phrase she kept using is, I have to pay for love. Love is a debt I pay off. I have to give until I'm resentful. So without a right to have her needs met, she only had a right to give until she got resentful, but she didn't have a right to receive. And what better person to get that won't give you your needs than a married man, right? She couldn't ever, because it's not just giving, she couldn't receive because it wasn't safe to receive. You were either receiving horrible guilt trips, and you couldn't reach out or you get your hand slapped. So her system set it all up. It's not safe to give. Now, that doesn't work for anyone. She became the queen of resentment. And when we gave her back a feeling of worthy and nourished, that's the feeling that heals that missing right. I am worthy to reach out for my needs and to have it come back. Suddenly, her brain stopped, her little picker stopped picking married men. And now it was okay to be in a relationship where you could receive. And her brain was now sorting for which man can give me what I want for versus which man won't give me, because that feels safe. That's how much safety is running. And it was just and it wasn't like she had a life sentence. We just had to make her brain safe, feeling worthy again. And that's one of those 4 feelings that tell us all we're loved, I talk about in the book. When she felt worthy, her brain did better.
Dr. Gary, let's jump right into those 4 feelings that you talk about in the book. Would you mind listing them for us, and then we'll get into them a little bit?
Yeah, I argue that between 0 and 3, your brain sets up these little templates called rights. And 4 feelings are driving the show. At 1 year old to 1.5, you can tell what type of love style a child has. That's right, that early, 1 to 1.5. And the only thing running the show back there are feelings, and it turns out to be 4. What tells a child they can be securely loved versus anxious or avoidant later on in life are getting 4 feelings. Welcomed with joy. So glad I'm on the show, you guys, right? Welcome with joy, right? Worthy and nourished to reach out, have my needs met. Cherished and protected, which means I get to be a me, I get to be esteemed and valued and appreciated. I get to go out and explore, but also come back to a we that supports me and is a safe harbor. So not just me, not just we. You feel cherished and protected, a me and a we, and then empowered with choice. So you can create your own experience. You can also have a right to assert your own truth and have someone share influence. If you feel welcomed and worthy and cherished and empowered, you feel pretty loved. But if you feel disempowered or unworthy or uncherished or disempowered, or, those 4 feelings you'll be either anxious or avoidant. That's the deal.
Let me ask you a question then. So these are the feelings that someone is supposed to feel, or once they feel these feelings when they're in an age bracket from 0 to 3, that is what sets them up to be able to have love in their life that isn't, like you said, either anxious or avoidant.
Yes.
Now, as someone who has maybe not experienced that from 0 to 3, if they feel either welcome with joy or worthy, cherished or empowered, does that not necessarily, though, equate to the definition of love for them as an adult?
Well, it's a funny thing. I mean, it does, and I want to say it's not like later experience doesn't count, okay? Sometimes I've met people that had a secure relationship, but say they got abducted and molested Okay.
Okay.
At 14, that'll do it. That'll do it. Then now suddenly they don't feel so cherished and protected, not so empowered with choice, right? But generally speaking, these are put in by age 7, but certainly between 0 and 3. Uh, and they can be changed by later experience. But what happened, the brain decided, well, if I feel unworthy, I can't reach out for my needs. And so it's the brain gets these rights are like motivational signals in the brain, right? So it's like one client that had a missing right to have her needs met. She put it this way. She goes, every time I think about asking my husband what I really need, she goes, it's like my dog. We put on this electronic dog collar, and every time it gets close to the boundary, of an uncomfortable feeling stops it. She goes, I feel like I got a freaking electronic collar on my neck, and every time I start, it's like the dog I have to stop in my tracks. That's what it feels like.
Well, if that's not I don't know if that's not a great analogy, I don't know what is. I mean, that really
No kidding.
sums it up. My goodness.
I think I'd put the collar on him. keep the control.
Yeah. Well, Sid, you have more secure love style. See, that tells me you're empowered with choice.
You have no idea. I just don't tolerate, things that aren't right, and that would be a hot button for me.
Well,
in fact, I might put it on for the wife.
That's one of my definitions in the book. I got it from a woman who'd been married 55 years, right?
Oh my God.
I asked her, I said, what's your one sentence, recipe? She goes, oh, that's easy. She goes, I take no BS, I give no BS. And that's about as good. If you have all these feelings and you have these 6 rights I talk about, the right to exist, have your needs met, to separate and belong, to create your own experience, to assert and to love and be loved right back, you will not give BS, and you will certainly not take it, because worthy people don't attract takers. Disempowered people, but an unworthy person will. If you feel disempowered, you'll attract or choose someone who will dominate you, or you'll lose yourself in a relationship. If you feel empowered, none of that will be acceptable. That's why the secure attract, set up, create, and maintain really lasting relationships, because they don't put up with BS, and they don't give it back when they receive it either. Not unless they're really pushed against the wall.
Yeah, I can see that. So I want to go back to the 4 feelings, actually. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it in terms, again, of being an adult. What does it look like in a relationship to be welcomed with joy versus not welcomed with joy?
Okay. So welcome with joy is a feeling like when you wake up in the morning and you hear, good morning, gorgeous, or good morning, handsome. Welcome with joy is they light up when they see you come home at night. Oh, man, you are a sight for sore eyes. Or you walk in the door and you've had a bad day and you've got your tail between your legs. And they say, you look like you've had a bad day. Come over here and get a hug, right? Tell me about your day. Welcome with joy is this, you feel welcome. If you text, you get a timely text back, right? And welcome with joy is they'd rather see you and be with you than just text endlessly.
Gotcha, of course.
Cool. That's what welcome with joy feels like.
And what about worthy? What does that feel like? What are the circumstances around an adult when they feel that? What does that look like?
Worthy is when you know you're worthy. You create a pattern in your relationships, and you select people that are really good, that are willing to give you your needs and meet them in a timely way. And not only that, not only when you ask, but they're making what's called love maps. They're noticing that you tend to like a decaf cappuccino with skinny vanilla stuff from Starbucks, right? Or they know what and they notice your patterns and your preferences. They track your dreams. They're there and they're noticing. And when you reach out for your needs, it's timely. You don't have to beat a dead bush, or a dead horse to get your needs met. And they're always tracking it and updating. So, she looks like she got tired of sushi. What else? Oh, she likes Italian now, right? That's what it's like. And you just know if you reach out, they're going to do their best to meet your needs.
And for me, Gary, what that means is they get you.
Exactly.
And that is the one thing I love most about my husband is that he got me.
Exactly. And they get you. They love math. I mean, a funny little story was, when my son was in college, he came home and I was going to drop him off at his mom's. We'd been divorced 15 years by that time, right? And he says, I want to bring a hamburger from Wendy's, right? And I go, okay, cool. And so I drop by Wendy's, and he goes in and buys her a hamburger, and he's just standing at the counter and goes, they go, what would you like on it? He goes, I have no idea what mom likes. And I said, mayonnaise, onion, and lettuce. And he looks at me like, really? I go, trust me. And then when and he drops it off, she goes, oh my God, how did you know? And I go, you don't want to know. But it wasn't like I was a total boof back there in my 20s.
That's pretty funny.
But that's my cover story to balance it out. But that's it. I mean, 20 years later, I remembered that, or 15 years later. But the thing about these love maps that's important is we change over time, and worthy for what feels worthy for a 20-year-old spouse may not be what they need at 40. We are always changing. I still remember in college, there was we had for one of our marriage and family relations course, the professor brought in 3 couples, newlywed that had been on campus last year, and I remember thinking, God, she married him,
What made you say that?
This guy was amazing, Anyway, and not in always the best ways. Then there was this really ancient couple that in their late 40s, because I was 21.
Ancient.
Yeah, And then there was a couple that had been married 63 years. He was 93 and she was 88.
Wow.
And this football player, who was not always the most respectful guy, asked this elderly gentleman, so what's it like being married to the same woman for 63 years? And the gentleman picked up the tone and said, well, young man, if you're lucky enough to be married to the same woman for 63 years, he says, I have a surprise for you. He says, if you think you're married to the same woman for 63 years, you got another thing coming.
Right.
He says, I've been married to 5 different women, and each of those marriages was different. And he went on to describe the 5 different women.
Wow.
That he's married. And this woman, I swear to God, 88 years old, was nodding her head, beaming, and you could tell how loved she was.
That's incredible.
Well, he really got her.
He got
5
her.
times.
And it kept changing. And that's the big thing. Even if you make really great love maps of each other, when you start off, you got to keep updating them. You got to ask every 6 months, so how are your dreams going? You can, those are the things that.
How are your dreams going?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how the conversation starts?
Well, you can do a lot. You can.
That's amazing.
I think the check-in every week should be for every couple. I tell the couples I work with, every Sunday night, check in and say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did I do this week? If anything under a 9, then you say, so which of the 4 feelings were missing? Was there something that made you feel unwelcomed, unworthy, not so cherished or disempowered? And then, yes, and what was it? And what could I do better? Of course.
When we come back, we're going to find out exactly what you can do better in your relationship so you can create a love that lasts. We're here with Dr. Gary Salyer on the Imagine More Success radio show. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We are having a conversation today with Dr. Gary Salyer about how you can create a love that lasts in your life. We're really talking about moving from beyond hopelessness to real, lasting love. And if you have ever felt hopeless about where you are in your situation when it comes to love, and if you missed the beginning of this part of the show, you can always go back and listen to our past episodes at imaginemoresuccess.net, where you can get all of the wisdom and all of the great parcels of knowledge that we're receiving today. And, this has been a fascinating interview today. I've really enjoyed it. We've been talking about the feelings that establish love within the definition of love for us as individuals, and then how we experience as adults. Dr. Gary, in the previous segment, you were just talking about how we should check in every single week, because we want to make sure that we're keeping up to date with our partner, to make sure that we're fulfilling them in those 4 areas, that so they feel welcome with joy, worthy, cherished and protected, and empowered with choice. That sounds scary a little bit.
I was just going to go there, Thomas, because Dr. Gary, what I would like to know is, in your practice, how many men were willing to have that conversation every week?
I know that a check-in, there are some couples that are more resistive, right? and until they realize it's...
And they're all divorced.
Yes.
No, they can resist. And I know that, especially while we're getting things straight, right? That's the difference between stuff building up and being able to snip it in the bud. That's the way it is. When do you want to fix your plumbing? When the pipe is busted, or when you see the drip, right? You want to catch it at the drip,
Or when they move out of the house.
Exactly. And the joke I sometimes tell guys, I said, I know, you're a little hesitant to do that because you might have screwed up that week. I said, so this is your free out. So if you've screwed up that week, I said, I've done it myself. I'm not saying it's going to work, but you say, on a scale of 9 to 10, how did I do this?
I'm going to use that, Gary. I like that.
I tried it once. So the look wasn't like, no, you're not getting out of it that way.
I'd be like an auctioneer. A 5. Can I get a 6? Can I get a 6? Can I get a 7? Can I get an 8?
Actually, yes, and it can get that way. I've seen couples that the one spouse will go 8.5. Just
yep.
And then the other one says, I'm dropping mine from 9 to 8.
That's hilarious.
It is. You get some funny things with couples, but the check-in it's a way of making sure that things work well. I first heard it from Jack Canfield, to be honest, in a writer's retreat. And I thought that's a really good idea. And I added the idea of the 4 feelings, because if things haven't gone well, you catch it in the bud, and then you can make small changes. Because what's the big thing that stops couples? It's where things have built up, and then that grievance gets more and more evidence, and the resentment builds up, and it's like Hoover Dam breaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first session that I often have with clients, or a few, is Hoover Dam breaking. They can't wait to get in front of me to rat out their partner, basically.
I've heard that term, the 3 R's, and it's considered one of the most powerful negative programs that we run as human beings, which is you begin in resistance, you then proceed to resentment, and then you finish with revenge. So by the time people come to you, are they often already at the point of revenge, even though they're seeking counsel at that time?
Well, revenge has a lot of different things. It could be, I'm not going to sleep with you. It could be, I'll withhold finances. It could be some act of betrayal. Revenge isn't, what happens is grievances are just killers for a relationship. Because resentment is constantly playing. They have to get over that. And the only way is couples have got to repair, to learn how to accept and make repairs. That means the offending party has to say, I have been lousy at sharing influence with you. And I'm sorry I made you feel so disempowered these years. I'll do a better job of sharing influence. Now, a lot of times, what's the next move? Oh, you're only saying that because I asked you to, or because you're here. And then they get the aggrieved one gets this little feeling. Now I'm in power, and then you got to get them to work on their grievance so that they can accept repairs, because all couples mess up. There's nobody that's perfect, none at all. I every once in a while I make mistakes. I'm not perfect either, and I have to tell people that you wrote the book, and I go, I said I promised you secure. I never said perfect.
Right.
you
Safe
know,
and secure. That's it.
and that
Which
means
is a lot.
that's right. I have to make repairs, and I go notice, and listen and allow them to say, "Wow, I didn't realize that affected you, even if you didn't intend it." Right? And the way most couples operate is a funny little thing. The way it is, when I screw up, in a relationship, if you say partner A, it's like, now I know that hurt you, but I had the best of intentions. However, when you screw up, it's a mark of characterological defect.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that doesn't work. Most couples are have these dueling missing feelings, or what I call dueling rights. One doesn't, so if the wife doesn't feel included, she doesn't feel cherished, she gets really resentful, criticizes him. And what's his old missing feeling from childhood? Disempowered. Maybe he had an intrusive mother or father that really disempowered him. And so when he gets feeling disempowered, he can't assert and he can't say he can't create his own experience in a way that can't make her feel worthy. And now they're spiraling downwards. I once had that same thing. Now, once I worked with this one couple, and she had never belonged, and he couldn't create his own experience. And what does that look like? In 26 years of his first marriage, he never once initiated sex. That's a missing right to create your own experience at a scale that I didn't think I'd see in a man, right? So the day comes when the ex-wife and the kids say, we don't want her around for our Christmas celebration. So no right to create his experience, no right to assert, no right, he says, okay, let's make everybody happy, except for his fiance, right? And so I'll see you tomorrow, but I'll spend Christmas Day with my family. What does she get? She gets a hit of her old missing right to belong. Because when she grew up, she always had to be the tomboy, do it all myself, never got a chance to belong, and she's dying to belong. And when she doesn't belong, she criticizes, and he gets more disempowerment. And the more disempowerment, the less he can create an experience. When we gave him back a right to create his own experience where he felt empowered, he could say to the ex, sorry, she's the one I love, and she's a part of the team. And then when she felt included, she would empower him. What does that look like? He lost his job. She was extremely well-connected entrepreneur, and she found him a six-figure job in a month. Wow. That's what. Now, belonging and empowering circles up. They were dueling. They picked each other for exactly what they had rights for. They only had rights for disempowered and not belonging. That's what their brains were set up with, those old patterns. And what I get couples to do, I get them to say, okay, that was safe to some part of my brain. Thank you. Let's have it better. And the big move here is, the first move I get is to show them the pattern, and then to get them to say, how can we become a team and make the pattern the blame and not the partner? If they can become a team and make the pattern the problem and not the partner, this is the beginning of a we. This is the beginning of healing.
So have you ever told a couple that they weren't right for each other, or that they'd never be able to get out of their tornado?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it just seems like it'd be easier.
Well, it's about 85% of the time, which is higher than most, I succeed with couples. Okay. I can honestly tell you, in the last 6 months, I've had about 7 couples come to me, and 6 I've been able to pull them out of the fire. 3 of them with 30-year marriages. Now, the one, they were too far gone. They're just too far gone. Okay.
Well, I think some people just aren't right for each other.
Yeah, and sometimes they are, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of times people, they marry for love, but they've got these hesitancies that don't give the other one a full experience. And if we can give them back all four feelings, they feel loved. Now, occasionally, if I've dealt with a few couples over the years in which one partner was a borderline or a narcissist, those folk don't change very readily. Occasionally,
Nope.
occasionally I have been able to shift them, but not often, or sometimes. But you'd be surprised. There's a default setting to think that it's just easier to divorce, right? But actually, more could be reclaimed for love than we think possible. That's out there in popular land.
Well, it's very impressive that you took 6 couples that were married for 30 years and got them back on track, because you'd think after 30 years they'd both want to give up.
Well, three of them were, 3 of the 6, right?
Yeah.
And I can honestly say, what the one said to me was, well, we got down and we found what was really going on. In terms of these missing rights I talk about, which is a new way of looking at what I call attachment, right? And these feelings, that we got them to learn how to see the pattern, make the pattern, become a team against the pattern, not each other. In the last session, she just looked at me. She goes, "We've had 5 therapists. No one ever took us this deep. No one ever got to what was really the issue." But when we got to their missing rights, and they understood, oh my God, when I do that, that's like poking him in the eye. Oh my God, when I do that, that's just stabbing her in her heart. Got it. Instead of, they were able to, now they're in a very different place.
And I think there's tremendous value in making the attempt, and I mean an honest attempt, to utilize these ideas and concepts and working with you to actually make an attempt to regain the love that you had in the past. Because what does that mean? That's only a great preparation for, even if that particular relationship does not end up succeeding, at least now you have the tools that when you find the next relationship, maybe, just maybe, you actually have a chance to make it last.
Exactly. Now, that's also the case too. I've had a few couples like that were engaged, and at first, like with one couple, he decided, nope, not going to come in. And then she walked, right? And then he goes, oh, come. And he comes in saying, help me get her back. But it wasn't. But when we did the work with him, he had a couple, now he's in a great relationship that I predict he'll be married. But this time he got it. He goes, wow. And I cannot create those sort of patterns again. And we found out, I felt so abandoned. He was a military kid. I never could make connections. And some part was in, well, you never know when a connection's going to go away. I better do something to sabotage. Right? When we got him safe with connecting, suddenly, now his picker is set. He picks people that want to connect, and he's in a great relationship. I really think he's found her.
Well, I think that's the key, is to get your picker straight so that you know what's going to work for you.
Exactly. And for singles, I work with singles as well. Singles come in and they have these long list of criteria. 6'2", tall, dark, and handsome, speaks like Thomas Hyde, things like that. All that stuff, right? And what those have, the research says that compatibility lists do not predict. But what does predict is the quality of the quote unquote marital friendship. That's the 4 feelings. So what I teach my clients, are the single clients, use these 4 feelings in 5 or 6 dates. How welcomed, worthy, cherished, and empowered do I feel? Like one client, she came in the first session, and
Dr. Gary, we're going to hold that story because we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to help you get past the Groundhog Day of your dating life, help you learn how to move from hopeless to real lasting love, and how to create a love that lasts on the Imagine More Success radio show. Thank you so much for sticking around with us today on the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We're so happy that you're with us. We have had a great conversation so far with Dr. Gary Salyer. We've been talking about how you can create a love that lasts. And really, we've been focusing on most of the major points of his book, which is called Safe to Love Again. And it's a fantastic, fantastic book, something that we definitely recommend. It's called Safe to Love Again, How to Release the Pain of Past Relationships and Create the Love You Deserve. Dr. Gary, we interrupted you kind of mid-story as you were talking about someone's relationship, and we want to let you get back to your story.
Okay, yeah, I could see this story interrupted for a word from our sponsor.
Exactly.
No, that's great. So she came in the first session, and she goes, "Oh my God, I found Mr. Jackpot." Now, I'm always interested in Mr. Jackpot, especially when it's the first session before we've reset, somebody's system to accept and give only welcome, worthy, cherished, and empowered, right? And Mr. Jackpot was 6'2". He was a doctor. Oh my God, he was a doctor. And he wore Armani suits, right? And he had read he'd even read Gary Chapman's Love Languages. And get this, he loved Pilates. Oh my God, could you believe he loved Pilates? Well, now in childhood, her two missing feelings was not so worthy and definitely not cherished, right?
Okay.
Now, about the fifth week, about third or fourth session, she comes in and she's honked and she goes, "Yeah, he likes Pilates. All he wants to do is check out the other women."
Yep. Saw that coming.
Yeah. So not so cherished and not so worthy, right? So they don't make it, Mr. Jackpot. So we do the work and we really give her these rights to feel cherished and protected, to feel worthy, right? That a man could really love her essence, right? So now she goes back online, and guess what? There's another Mr. Jackpot. The only difference is he's 6'2" and he wears Jordache suits, but he's an attorney. He's an attorney, right?
Oh my God. Fire to the frying pan.
Yeah. Now, the other guy is a good guy. He's about 25 pounds overweight. He comes in the first date in a Hawaiian shirt, not an Armani, right? But after going out with both of them, she makes a decision. She goes for the guy who doesn't make good income, but nothing like a doctor or attorney. And I said, "Why did you go for him?" And she goes, "He made me feel like a queen."
Mm-hmm.
She's sorting for the four feelings. And what I tell my singles, you have a few lists of what you need, 3 or 4, that's important, and you're going for the four feelings. The four feelings, if you're giving and receiving those in a relationship, you're going to feel pretty loved. There's got to be a little values alignment. I'll grant you that, and there's got to be some physical chemistry. But the key is not having a long list of 64 characteristics on Match.com that everybody has to match, right? It is about the quality of the friendship, because when people break up, it's because repairs weren't made. They didn't feel worthy. So if you're out there and you're wondering how to pick someone, if you've got some physical chemistry, your first thing is after 5 or 6 days, take an inventory, 1 to 10. How welcome, worthy, cherished, and empowered. Look for signs of the we, and if that's good, your go to find out if you can really make it, if the values are aligned. But that's your picker. That's your brain's natural GPS. Don't forget it.
That's amazing. That's a great way to also overcome all the hormones sometimes involved when you first meet Mr. or Mrs. Right, right? Because that can be like putting blinders on.
Yes. It can. Because that first phase of attraction is dopamine and norepinephrine, and it's coming from your reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is doing all this physical attraction, is coming from a caudate nucleus, and it's not doing so much feelings of cherish. It does no feelings. It's like, how can I mate? That's all it is, right? And it can lead you astray. And all of us have been there. It's like, oh my God, there she is, or there he is. But then later, when the attachment system kicks in, it's like, this doesn't feel right. And feel is the word. If you're out there and you're a guy, by the way, it is feelings. What's running your system is feelings. You have a right to your feelings. Track how you feel. Track how you feel.
Dr. Gary, you have, in addition to an incredible book that you're offering to the world, Safe to Love Again, you also have a really great free gift for our listeners today. Please take a moment and tell them about it.
Okay, so if you go to my website, GarySalyer.com, Salyer, and there's this little thing called it's like I call it Dr. Gary's Guide for Love, but it says Love Inspirations, and it's a series of videos for both singles and couples, 2 to 4 minutes, that give really great skills, and I talk about these feelings and the rights you need to make a relationship. It's good enough that I know an engaged couple that were in their 50s in Oregon. They had 2 divorces apiece. It saved, listening to that saved their engagement. They're now married. So you go there, sign up, and you'll get this really cool set of videos that will help both singles and couples find, create, and maintain a really loving, lasting relationship.
You know, I think that's a really powerful thing for someone to be able to at least take that first step, right? Isn't that really the key? Taking that first step, making the effort, deciding that you're going to make a difference in your relationship and really put some work and effort into its success. I think it's wonderful.
It is. Most people, there's an epidemic of unworthiness out there. So that's why a lot of people, but you are worthy of love. You were born worthy. Somebody had to teach you you weren't. But your brain only took the feeling of unworthy offline like a layaway plan so it could bring it back. So you could have that holiday of love in your life. So don't let anything deter you. You are worthy of having love. And that's your birthright.
And if you're struggling, Dr. Gary can definitely help you. 85% is huge in any profession to be successful.
Yeah, that's better than Ted Williams' batting average. I mean, that's pretty incredible. I'd take that 85% any day of the week.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes. Montana to Rice or something. But
right. Seriously.
That's why I'll be, and in a month I'll be training about 100 therapists on this new theory of attachment that a lot of them are saying, I've cracked the code. It's just a better way. Who wants to go around saying I'm anxious, avoidant, or secure? That and $5 at Starbucks, will get you something called coffee. It's a label.
Reality show. I'm not sure.
No, nobody wants a label. They want to be shown the way back to the home port in their heart where love can exist and they can feel good about. And the book is going to let you see what you really need to restore a secure love style so you can love like the masters.
Well, and everybody wants to be happy. So sometimes it takes a little effort to figure things out.
Oh, it did. Oh, there's no doubt. One of the reasons I wrote the book is it took me a lot of searching, and I don't want anybody to search that hard, but that was my life's path. That was my soul's journey. This makes it a whole lot faster and easier.
Yeah.
It totally does.
The readers are saying 2 things, generally speaking, eye-opening or life-changing, and I'll take both of them.
Guys, get the book, get 2 copies, get one for you, get one for your partner, read it together, and make it happen.
And get out your highlighter.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, you can go to my website and reach out, and there's a place to contact me, and I'll answer your questions.
And that's GarySalyer.com. Dr. Gary, we're headed towards this lovely time of the year called the holidays, which, for some people, we're always trying to recreate that Norman Rockwell painting, or we're trying to make it, just perfect, like we've seen on television or in the movies. And it's not always like that. Give us a couple tips and some advice on how we can make the holidays happier.
Okay. One of the things I have noticed over the years, and I think I talked about it a few years on the show with you guys, is that the holidays are an emotional amplifier.
Absolutely.
And now and if you walk in feeling you're in a good space and you're feeling really wonderful and you're feeling loving, it will amplify that. And lo and behold, it's Currier and Ives Christmas, right? But if you come in and you've had a breakup or you lost a job or you're dealing with COVID and you're feeling maybe not so worthy or not so disappointed and you're a little depressed, it will amplify those. Suddenly it's the Grinch that stole Christmas, right?
Yes.
And the big thing is that we set so many expectations around the holidays. It is good to dethrone some of those expectations. It really is, to realize that moment should not define, it doesn't define your future. say you had a breakup and you're really feeling, oh my, I don't belong. You got to know that that's one day of the year, and you can restore that feeling, so you begin to create more deep connections. It may not happen that day, but you've got to be able to manage the moment and to notice. That's one of the things I learned over the years, is that it's not a barometer for how you're doing in life. And there's a lot of cultural pressure that, oh my God, we're all connected and everybody, I'll be home for Christmas,
Right.
And what if you don't have a home, right, to go back to? But it doesn't mean, but you have a right to create your experience. And going forward, and you have a right to belong with it, and it's okay to do the deep work and to say, I'm going to create a life that feels good for me. And that holiday should not define you.
Doctor, I have one probably final question. It's going to take a couple minutes for you to answer it. You're talking about the rights that that everyone has. These are rights that you're born with, right? That are
exactly
something that you can, I guess, temporarily lose sight of, but you actually never lose them. Can you just walk us through those and share those with the audience, please?
Yes. Well, you have a right to exist. Every child is, you get these rights because you're living. Life gives them to you. You have a right to exist. The amoeba never says, gosh, I wonder if I have a right to exist. It has a right to exist. Okay. Mm-hmm. That means you get to feel like you have a place in this world. The world can be your oyster. You can be in your body. You can feel connected to life and others. You have a right to have your needs met. It's okay to reach out and to know you don't only have to give, but it's okay to take back and to receive that which is right for you. That you have a right to separate and belong. It means I get to be a me and explore my greatest dreams and come back to the home port and the safety of somebody's heart, to be a part of a real we, a partnership. I have a right to create my experience so I feel empowered. That means somebody else isn't the standard of my experience, right? I get to have that to be the standard and to blend it with somebody else who does too. I have a right to assert, which means I can feel empowered enough to speak my truth and for someone to share influence with me, that we are there to support each other's dreams. And then if you add those up, you get a full right to love and be loved right back. Not I get to love more than I get love back. So these 4 feelings create these 6 experiences, these rights: a right to exist, have your needs met, separate and belong, create your own experience, to assert, and to love and be loved right back. If you have all 6 rights and those 4 feelings flowing before a couple with a little alignment, you're going to be good to go.
It doesn't seem like it's too many moving parts to put together, not really. It's only 4 feelings and 6 rights. And like you said, a little alignment. That seems pretty simple.
This isn't rocket science. If a 1 and a 1.5-year-old child can know they're loved, how complicated could it be?
Well, Dr. Gary, we want to thank you again for joining us today. We want to encourage you to go to his website, GarySalyer.com, where you can check out his book, Safe to Love Again. And thank you so much for joining us. If you'd like to check out some of our past episodes, do go to imaginemoresuccess.net to check out what Cindy and I are up to and how we can help you gain more happiness in your life and more money in your business. Go to imaginemoresuccess.com or go to findhiddenmoney.com, where we have some really incredible courses for you. And we want to thank you for joining us. We want to wish you the best holidays and hope that you are finding a way to create a love that lasts in your life and to miss out on Groundhog Day and move from hopelessness to real, lasting love. We want to encourage you, as always, to realize your dreams and to imagine more success.